This week on Outside Eye, the freedoms secured in 1994 provide refuge for those fleeing discrimination in their own countries.
In the US, my straight siblings, if they ever met foreigners, would very easily be able to sponsor their partners to move to the US, but because I'm gay, I'm not allowed to.
Here I'm protected, but my right is not respected. But in my country, I am not protected and I won't be respected at all.
And later,
we are saying no to homosexuality and we are calling upon your support. You cannot say no. Homosexuality is not a human right.
At least 38 countries on the continent have laws against gay, bisexual and lesbian rights. We've had politicians especially saying that this is not our culture. This is anti-African.
hello South Africa, I'm Nkepile Mabuse and this is Outside Eye in Cape Town, your global perspective on South Africa in 15 minutes.
Crossed the Red Sea and we are on our way to the promised land. All of us, black and white together.
It's become known as the gay capital of Africa, attracting millions of tourists from around the world every year, many of them homosexual. But we're here to meet two men whose experiences of Cape Town and South Africa's liberal constitution are as different and as far apart as the countries of their origin. American citizen Dan Brotman and his South African fiancée, Keith Meanies, have been living together in the quaint suburb of Observatory for more than a year now. They met on an internet dating site in 2010 and hit it off almost immediately.
I came to South Africa 2.5 years ago to write my thesis for university. And while I was here, I went on a dating website and I met Keith. And we went out for dinner and we had an amazing 3 weeks together. But I was in South Africa temporarily and I left. And we were both very sad because we didn't know if we were ever going to see each other again. Keith was fortunately going to the US a few months later. And we said, why don't we see each other, spend a few days together, see what happens. And from the moment I saw Keith at the arrivals hall, I think we both knew that we wanted to be together and we wanted to give this relationship a chance. And obviously to make the relationship work, we needed to live in the same place. So we decided that I would move to South Africa, and that's what I did exactly 2 years ago.
Because you could legally get married in Boston,
right,
but the federal government wouldn't recognize your
right.
marriage, right?
Right.
Just explain that.
Sure. So in 1996, President Bill Clinton, who was under enormous pressure from social conservatives, signed the Defense of Marriage Act known as DOMA. What DOMA says is that the federal government can only recognize marriages between opposite-sex couples. So any realm which the federal government has control over, that could be immigration, taxes, the military, working for the federal government, your marriage is only recognized if you're a straight couple. So if Keith was a woman, I would very easily be able to sponsor him on a fiancé visa, or if we were married, I would very easily be able to sponsor him for a green card as my spouse. Because of the Defense of Marriage Act, Keith and I are legal strangers in the eyes of the US government, despite the fact that we can get married in my home state of Massachusetts. Unlike in the US, South Africa allows its citizens to sponsor their same-sex married or unmarried partners. So Keith and I aren't married yet. We're getting married at the end of the year. But because we live together and we're in a permanent relationship, I am allowed to live in South Africa with Keith. I'm given the right to work. And there are absolutely no problems. In the US, Keith and I have absolutely no possibility of living together. It's very difficult for me because I don't ever know if I'm going to be able to live near my family ever again. I'm put in a very unfortunate situation where I have to choose between living in my country or living with my partner. And no one should have to make that type of a choice. But because the Supreme Court has heard the case for DOMA and will be making an announcement in a few months, I remain cautiously optimistic.
Cautious optimism in one part of town and utter despair in another. I meet Congolese national Albert Kafuka in the street. That's because he's now homeless after this much publicized assault, allegedly by his landlady's relative, on Easter Monday. He tells me what began as an attempted eviction turned into a homophobic attack. His assailant has been arrested and is out on bail. Kafuka says it's one of many incidents of abuse he's had to endure since arriving in South Africa 6 years ago. Unlike in many African countries, homosexuality is not illegal in the DRC, but Kafuka says he was treated like a criminal.
Being gay in the DRC, I would call it how other people call it. It's called abomination. I really couldn't deal with that. And so, yeah, I took my decision to leave the country. And I have a friend. He used to speak about South Africa, because he was very connected into the gay world. He told me that being in South Africa, it's a good thing because you can be there and you can be free living your life because the Constitution protects you and you don't have to worry about anything.
But he soon realized this was no paradise.
You know, I cannot even count how many times I've been attacked. I've been attacked so many times on public places, on the trains, on public transport. And for me, I would say that what is written on the Constitution, I would call it just words on paper. It's written, but there is need to train people maybe, or to just impose it to people and teach people how to respect that.
Despite all this, he still believes he's better off in South Africa.
DRC, I'm not protected. I'm really not protected. Anything could happen to me. And if I'm gone, I mean, if I die, people will be like, oh, okay, he died because of what he did, so he deserves that. This is what people will say. But in South Africa, I know that there are many organizations out there. If anything happens to me, like now, I know that people will stand for that. There's a huge difference. So here I'm protected, but my right is not respected. But in my country, I am not protected and I won't be respected at all.
South Africa is among a growing number of countries, but still the only in Africa where same-sex couples can get married. As of April the 30th, only 9 states in America, representing about 16% of the population, had legalized gay marriage.
News that moves. ENCA.com.